Teammates, first and foremost, if this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the show. Welcome to the number one show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Looking forward to having you back for more. To my regular listeners, you already know how I get down when the solo episodes come out. We get right to the point. And today we are going to discuss the importance, all right, the importance of becoming a person who can attract the right people into their audience. All right, I'm gonna say it again nice and clearly, so you, just in case you missed it, so you have it understood, so you have it, so you understand 100% what I'm saying. Okay, I'm talking about you individual that's listening to me now, becoming the type of person that'll attract the right person into their audience. All right. And doing so, when the more experience, and this is the result of what you're going to get. And if you're a first time listener, just understand that this is what happens on this show. I present a scenario, present an issue, present a problem, explain to you something, and then I tell you the solution and the result that you're going to get when you start to implement these things into your own life, into your own business, into your own organization, into your family, into the things that you truly are very, very passionate about. All right. So let me say it again nice and clear. We're going to discuss how to become the right person how to become the person that attracts the right people into their audience. That's number one. And the result of it is you'll start to see these things happening for you, where you'll start to get people. You have kind of like you have this magnetic energy in which folks who would be perfect to be in your audience, the right people who come into your audience, they'll just start coming into your life over and over and over again. And the more that this happens, the more content, the more material, the more things that you will be able to do that'll attract these people in abundance and bring these people into your world over and over and over and over again. And when you get on that track, when you get in that situation, when you have that magnetic energy, when you can step into that magnetic energy, when it gets to the point in which you don't even realize that you have this magnetic energy, you will start to see some results in your life, results in your business, results in your world that is like you couldn't even foresee. All right. So just to give you a couple examples of this just happened. I'm recording this. It is the first weekend in October. Now, last weekend was the last weekend in September, and this is when it all went down. It was like a back to back. In fact, it was back to back to back. It was three situations. Yeah, it was three situations that occurred to me, that came to me. And it all happened while I was doing one of my favorite leisure activities to do, which is watching college and NFL football in a sports bar. Now, I'm recording this in the fall of 2024, right in the heart of the fall. And the thing I have decided to do, I've committed myself to doing, is I want to watch all my college and NFL football games at a sports bar called Duffy Sports Bar and Grill, because there's a couple situations last year that make me kind of superstitious when it comes to Duffy's. All right. Number one, being a Michigan fan, I watched the Michigan versus Alabama game, the Rose Bowl game, at this Duffy's that has they have watch parties for all the Michigan faithful like me, and it was just a great game. And because of that, I've decided, hey, because that game was so epic, that game was so epic, in my opinion, it was the real championship. I know we beat Washington for the championship, but that game that we won in Cali in the Rose Bowl, we played Alabama and we won in overtime. Again, I don't know how we pulled that one out, but I know we pulled it out. It was the real championship, in my opinion. Right. So I watched that game there, and then I watched that game at a Duffy. So, like I said, this year I'm a little superstitious when it comes to, being at Duffy's. I was kind of biased towards going to Duffy's all year to watch it. Next reason was because I watched the Super Bowl with Pat Mahomes and Kelsey and all them boys, and the way the Chiefs. Now, it wasn't just Pat Mahomes. In fact, I'm starting to sound like the national media. This is why you got to be careful with how much media you consume. It wasn't just Pat Mahomes that won that Super Bowl, by the way. In fact, it wasn't just Pat Mahomes that took the Chiefs to the playoffs last year, right? It was it's not just him that makes that team so special. I know he gets a ton of the credit and he is a fantastic player, but over time, you really got to understand Andy Reid, who's the head coach of the Kansas City. I know for you non-football folks, I might be getting a little foreign on you here, but Andy Reid, who's the coach, I've seen him coach for years. I'm a diehard Washington Redskins, Washington Commanders fan. And back when Andy Reid coached with the Philadelphia Eagles, he used to come up with the best screens, the best plays. Not only that, but the defense for the Kansas City Chiefs really, really stepped up as well. So again, I watched a team win. I watched the Super Bowl between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. I watched that at a Duffy's last year, last February in 2024, last February, and it was a great experience, right? So I had a great experience there. And so that's the second big game that I kind of watched there. And then I also have a Duffy's card to where if I use it enough, I'm able to stack up my points, stack up enough money to where I could use it for a day. Like I could stack it up to a couple $100. I'm trying to see how much money I could stack on my Duffy's card. In fact, when I was there last week, I was talking to the bartender, and the bartender was telling me how he does the same thing, and he stacks up his Duffy's cards to where or he stacks up his Duffy's points to where he can bring his entire family out to eat, and they could just load up, order whatever they want, all that kind of stuff. So there's been quite a few things that have drawn me into the Duffy Sports Bar and Grill community. I will just say it like that, right? So as far as the concept and the understanding of attracting people into your world, this happened to me three different times on three different occasions. Three different occasions this past weekend, the last weekend of me recording this. All right. So last week, my team, the team I'm a fan of, we played at 12 noon. We were part of the Big Noon Kickers. It's actually when Michigan played Minnesota, and we won, but we played absolutely horribly. All right. So I was there. I went to a Duffy's that early at 12 o'clock to watch the entire game. And I was, kind of a nervous wreck because I wasn't a big fan of the way we were playing. Right. So what happened is I went to one that I don't normally go to per se, but I was there and there was someone that came and sat next to me. She was actually a Notre Dame fan. And apparently, so she goes to that one regularly. And, she's a elderly lady. And it was interesting seeing the relationship that she has with the bartender. In fact, so I'm a diehard Michigan fan. She's there in all her Notre Dame gear, and she's actually also a Buffalo Bills fan. An older, like I said, older lady who is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think she said she was diabetic, or she was diagnosed with something in which she had such a special relationship with the bartender that she never actually ordered food. She just told the bartender, his name was Sean, he said, "Hey, can you pick my meal for me?" And he knows her so well that he knows not to put certain things that have diabetic needs. She knows all her restrictions. She knew all that kind of stuff. And I'm sitting there. I mean, obviously, I'm watching the game, but I'm seeing how special this kind of community is built and how cool that is. And again, as a sports fan, as a person, as you can obviously tell, I built my entire platform, my entire business, my entire organization based on the things that I learned through football. I saw that and I was like absolutely enthralled. It's almost like reminded me of this book that I read years ago titled Onward by Howard Schultz. And Howard Schultz is he's the founder of Starbucks. And he was talking about how he went to Seattle and he saw this coffee shop and he was enthralled with the service, and he just had to move forward and all that kind of stuff. So as I'm listening to this bartender and then this elderly lady talk sports, she actually talked about how she has three generations of people who went through Notre Dame, grandson that just is now decided to go to. I mean, all sorts of stories and all sorts of conversation that made me realize, okay, these are the people that I want in my audience. And, I was just telling them a little bit about what I'm doing and sent them a link to this podcast so they can listen to it at their leisure and all that kind of stuff. Right. And that was just the first experience. All right. Like I said, I have three I got to tell you about. All right. Because it was that game. It was the Michigan versus Minnesota game. It was also the same day as of this recording. And I'm not sure if college football is going to be able to top it. Hopefully I'm wrong about this, but it was that Saturday in which there was the game, which was Georgia versus Alabama, baby. Oh, shit. Now, that was a football game. That was a hell of a football game. So that game started at 7 p.m. So I watched it, like I said, I watched the Michigan-Minnesota game, gave myself a little rest. Maybe if I'm not mistaken, I went and grabbed, can't remember what I did. Might have took a nap or caught up on some work and do what I normally do on the weekends. Saturdays and Sundays and during the fall. It's hard for me to get a lot of work done because of the college football going on. I know or the college and the NFL football that's going on. I know I'm going to be distracted and all that, but so I waited, and then once 7 p.m. hit, I went to another Duffy's location to watch the Alabama and Georgia game, right? It was actually a closer location, or a different location, a location that I've been to in the past. So, and I've been to quite a few of them. So it's actually out here in Palm Beach, it'd be very rare to find a Duffy's that I haven't been to because, again, the food is awesome. And if you ever been to a sports bar, like a really cleanly sports bar, they have, it looks just like my room growing up. They have absolutely just incredible images, just great images of great sports, like great moments in sports that were captured. It's like just my environment where I just love being around there. And I'm not even that really a drinker. I very rarely even actually drink. Most of the time I'm ordering water and food. So, just being around it, absorbing that energy again, all of these things that I'm telling you, it should be triggering and raising antennas in your brain to where, okay, where is it that my environment, where is it that the people that I would want in my world, that I would want coming to me, bringing to me, where is it that they like to hang out? For me, it's sports bars. And people are in business, they go, they have a beer, they enjoy their college sports, or they enjoy the NFL sports and all that, and they're really they're really invested in certain organizations and certain teams, right? So anyway, the Georgia Alabama game is going on, and I'm watching at least for the first three quarters. I'm watching Alabama just straight beat some Georgia Bulldog ass. I mean, they couldn't stop them. I don't know what happened at the beginning of the game in Georgia. Maybe they weren't ready for the moment, whatever. But Alabama was just dominating, right? So during that time, there was this lady who sat next to me, and she, very, very attractive lady that sits next to me. And I start, for me, whenever I'm lucky enough fortunate enough to have this happen to me, is my opening question, because I've met a lot of women you guys have heard of, especially if you're a regular listener to this podcast. I've met a lot of women. I've been around. I know what I want. I know exactly what it is I'm looking for and all that kind of stuff. And she sits right next to me. And my first question to her, as it normally is when this happens, is, so you into sports? So that's my first question to her, because that her answer is pretty much going to determine how long she is going to, like, if this is going to be the first conversation that I have with her, or excuse me, if this is going to be the first and last conversation that I have with her, or is it going to be one of those where she says, yeah, I'm really into sports, and she can talk to me a little bit about the game and what's going on, and just be able to talk sports with me. Because if you can do that, then there's opportunities for me to really work it in and say, okay, this is going somewhere and all that kind of stuff. So not only was this particular lady into sports, but she actually coaches. She's a soccer coach for her two sons. She was, at one point, she was their coach for their soccer team, right? So what that pretty much kind of broke the ice, and she pulled out her phone and she showed me some pictures of her two boys and all that kind of stuff. But then the conversation got really serious, right? Because again, I'm watching this game, I'm talking to her, but I'm looking at the game to see if George is going to come back or see what's going on, because that's why I was there, to watch this epic game, right? And as we were talking, she started to say things that made the conversation go serious, like get really serious, to the point where I believe she had like a martini, and I wasn't even drinking that day. And then as she continued to talk, I was like, "Fuck it, look, I'm gonna order a beer," because your story started to really hit some triggers, right? Because what actually ended up happening is she was telling me about her two sons' father and all the horrendous and hideous things that he has done to her. Not only that, but some of the boyfriends that she's had and some of the difficult situations. I'm talking domestic abuse situations in which she was like really getting graphic with these stories and getting graphic about what she's actually lived through. And I'm sitting there, moved because at this particular point, the Georgia Alabama game is starting to get a little better because Georgia's starting to come back. I'm not really a drinker. However, I have a beer, and I'm like become such a lightweight now to where I may have 2 sips of beer and I'm starting to feel a buzz, right? And I'm getting moved. But not the more important thing also is I've met other women who are like her. And I was telling her how I can help. I was telling her I was like felt like I can be of service to her, because as a former boxing trainer, as a person that has trained ladies in the boxing world and taught multiple women how to throw a jab, cross, hook, jab, cross, hook, uppercut, cross, hook, crook, uppercut, cross, hook, jab, cross, hook, jab, cross, jab, hook, cross, hook, right? So as a person that has taught ladies their own combinations, there have been a ton of women that have come into my world who've been domestically abused, who've been in situations where they have dealt with a previous significant other who put their hands on them, and they walk around with that fear. They walk around with that, oh my gosh, I can't believe, just afraid of doing things. And as I was talking to her and I saw that same look in her face, I started to say, oh man, all right, here's the podcast, here's this person, all that kind of stuff. And we ended up exchanging contact information. And I shoot her a text about certain ladies that are going to be on the show that she can relate to, all that kind of stuff. And I'm explaining that to you again, just like I was explaining to the person I met before at the other Duffy's, is when you walk around, when you have that, and when you are in a place where you're attracting, you're able to become the attractive person to bring people like this in your audience, like, sitting at a sports bar, enjoying the football games, these kinds of things happen to you. The question has to be, is how does that translate into your world? How does that translate into your business? How does that translate into a situation in which you get yourself around the right energy, around the right people, around the right environment, a target rich environment, as a lot of people like to say, right? How do you do that and make it so that even though you may be enjoying something leisurely, you're also able to be building your business and doing things for your business, not necessarily just for your business, but also knowing who exactly you're going to be serving, who exactly you're going to be targeting, who are the people that are really going to need your work and make it so your gifts, your ability, the things that you're great at, they're going to gravitate towards you because of the environment that you're putting yourself in. That's the key to this. That's how you build things. That's how you build organizations. That's how you make it so your organization is moving like a cohesive team, a team that's working like diligently, and they're working together and they're winning as a team. All right. Now those two things happened on Saturday. The Sunday now was kind of a culmination of all the events, right? Because as if you're a regular listener, you already know I've committed myself to being in church every single Sunday. These going into 2024. Well, I might be traveling, but I've kind of reaffirmed my going to church every single Sunday, listening to the word. I've been going to a place called Life Church where Pastor Craig Rochelle has been just dropping some gems. I mean, bringing the heat, man, bringing the absolute heat. I've enjoyed my experience there, whether it's there or VU Church in Miami. I've pretty much kind of been narrowing down to those two specific churches, right? So I go to a specific location. Yeah. So what happened was, which one? Yeah, right. So I went, yeah, that Sunday, I went to that specific location in Wellington, and I came back to closer to downtown West Palm Beach to watch my Commanders. No, yeah, the Duffys that I normally go to right here in right here in closer to Palm Beach Gardens. But anyway, I went to watch my Commanders play. All right, the Commanders, formerly known as the Redskins, they were playing at 4 o'clock. So I made sure I got a lot of the work that I need to get done by about 2 p.m. You know, whether it's podcast editing, getting all my funnels together, getting all the work, and getting everything set up to go for the next week. I tried to get all of that done by 2:15 ish p.m. If I'm not, I think I had a call to. In fact, yeah, I had a meet. Yeah, that's right. So I did have a meeting at 10:30. Had a call at 10:30, and then I got a lot of the stuff that I need to get done, fit through, over and done with by 2 o'clock, and then immediately I go and I watch my Commanders. Find at least look at least of this recording. All right, look like they're trying to make some things happen this year. They're looking good right now. We're first place in the NFC East. We got a rookie quarterback. A lot of these things are screaming RG3 and that letdown. So I'm learning not to get too excited about the Washington Commanders. I have learned not to do that. All right. They like to set us up, like to set us diehard fans up for complete failure. So I've learned, look, until we are consistently winning games year in and year out, hey, I'm a fan. I'm a diehard fan regardless, but I ain't gonna get excited until I start to see some consistency over the span of years. I remember actually during that RG3 situation where he became the rookie of the year. He took us to the playoffs and all that kind of stuff. And the next year, I remember there was a lot of people saying, "Hey, what you doing 1 year in this league don't mean a motherfucking thing, right?" So, hey, when it comes to Jaden Daniels and all the hype that you see, this is the issue. This is why I corrected myself earlier when I was talking about Pat Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Too often, especially when we're talking National Football League, too often does the quarterback get too much of the praise? Everybody in the national media likes to only blame the quarterback when there's a win and the quarterback when they lose. It's just too much of the issue. That's an issue when it comes to the National Football League. And what we're seeing as a result is the teams are not being built the right way. We're seeing a lot of those problems as it is, but that's another conversation for another day. All right. So I was watching that game, and there was another lady who sat right next to me, a total stranger. Again, this is three trips to Duffy's in a row, three total strangers that I end up having a great conversation with, right? So she sits next to me. She was on my left. And for those of you who don't know, most of you guys who are probably listening to me right now, or if you haven't met me in person, I always wear a rubber bracelet on my left wrist that is for breast cancer awareness. It's a pink rubber bracelet that, stands for breast cancer awareness. And every year for the past a little over 2 decades now, the NFL has done a great deal of work in October emphasizing the awareness of cancer and crucial catch. And like I believe, I'm not sure if I mentioned this in this episode, but I lost my grandmother to cancer. And, there's not one family that has not been affected by this horrible, horrible disease. So, I'm always representing, I'm always wearing pink, right? And being that we were approaching at least at the time of me going, it was like September 30th. So we're approaching October, and we're approaching that crucial catch month in which there's a lot of promo, a lot of cancer awareness, and the NFL does a fantastic job about that. There was a lot of that stuff going on throughout the game. At the beginning of the game, there happened to be a lady who sits next to me on the left side who was a cancer survivor. Like, she recently just survived the whole thing, and she saw the wristband that I have on my left wrist that represented the pink wristband of cancer awareness. And we ended up having a great conversation, very similar to the conversation that I was having the night before with the lady who was dealing with domestic abuse situations. And having the show for as long as I've had it, I've had the pleasure of being very fortunate enough to have quite a few cancer survivors on this show. And that, along with the fact that what got me to South Florida to work for the Miami Dolphins Foundation, and our flagship event is actually the Dolphins Cancer Challenge. And as I was having a conversation with this lady who had just beat it, she was telling me about the University of Miami Sylvester Cancer Center. That's where she got a lot of her treatments. And when it comes to the amount of money that the Miami Dolphins Foundation raises for that specific center, it was a great, when I say great, I mean an unbelievably great conversation, because we were kind of in full circle mode where watching NFL football, I'm telling her about the things that the NFL is doing, NFL organization, these franchises are doing behind the scenes when it comes to uplifting and building their community. And she's one of the recipients and the people that went to the specific center. And a lot of the work was very rewarding and very much came into a full circle moment for me, especially seeing that I was able to send her to the podcast, send her to the show, and she's, obviously able to listen to other people do their thing and all that kind of stuff. And I'm explaining all of this to you. I'm not saying any of this to impress you about As One at all. All right. I'm actually saying this to impress upon you. I'm actually saying it to you so you can put it in your own mind and in your own heart, so you understand that when it comes to attracting the right audience, attracting the right people into your world, these are the things that you need to be doing. These are the things that you need to be paying attention to. And when you do it enough, again, I'm not making any of this, I can't make any of these stories up. When you walk into target rich places and the places in which you need to be, where you need to be, that are going to be bringing in ideal members to your audience, you don't have to walk around salesy at all. You don't have to walk around pitching what you do or anything like that. You could just walk into places, be comfortable. This is where you're at. And the right folks for you and your organization, what you're trying to build, they're going to just keep coming to you. So they're going to be like that magnetic energy that I was referring to. All right. So make sure you think about that. Apply it. Everything I said, apply it. What I do on the show is I take the things that have happened to me, the results that I've seen personally, and I explain them and I articulate them in a specific way, in a very clear way, so you understand how you can be doing it in your business and build your organization. That's what my obligation is. That's what my role is. That's what this show has been about since its inception. That's what the entire brand and the entire platform has been about from day one. All right. Being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.